So how did you and Chris meet? How did it come together?
So Chris and I met in 2016 when I was trying to move to Houston. I had a friend who I did college ministry with in Alabama, who who knew of Chris, and when I needed a place to stay because I had a job interview in Houston, he was able to connect me with him.
Okay, and I take it was just two minds kind of shared the same ideas.
Yeah. So what happened was, Chris and there's a bunch of guys who lived in that same house together. That's why the show was called The Roommates. We all were actual roommates at that time. And yeah, it's a bunch of guys. We all lived in the same house together, and we all had very similar worldviews, and we had ideas that we felt like would be good for society, and then we, decided to put those ideas out and share with the world.
Okay, and here's something I wanted you to explain. And I actually had this saved on my YouTube watch later list because I heard you say this a while ago. The thief of joy is comparison.
Yeah, yeah. No, no, that's good. I mean, to me, I think sometimes people don't realize how much of the advice I give others, I give to myself. And for those who know me, well, I was literally talking to Zuby about this the other day. Those who know me the best know I'm harder on myself than I am with anybody else. Only people realize that nuance to me. But comparison is the biggest thing I struggle with the most in my life. And when you compare yourself to other people, you're miserable because you're looking at the path that God has somebody on, and you're viewing it as superior than the path that you have on, and you view yourself as lesser than as another individual, and that game is never ending because you will never have the same path as anybody else. It's a never ending game of
So,
misery.
so yeah, it's interesting. I spoke to Zuby on here a few months ago, and he had lots of insights that kind of blew me away. Um, so how does that work for you now? Because it's very difficult not to feel comparison if you're chasing after something or you haven't even started on a purpose and you don't know what it is. You always look around for some sort of mentor who's miles away from you, who you may never attain even a conversation with, but you
Mhm.
can't sometimes help but dream, one day I'd like to be like the roommates. One day I'd like to be like Joe Rogan or, Logan
Yeah.
Paul or, any of these. Is how do you, because one of the things about comparison is it can also drive you to motivate because one of the things I always talk about on podcasts and in my coaching is everybody has a blueprint that you can roughly follow. There's some habit, ritual guidelines. And if you look at all of these people that you would assume to be successful by wherever you define success, that there is a blueprint and they've only followed somebody else's. Somebody had already always has set a bar that then allows somebody else to surpass them. Which,
Yeah. So I love the nuance. I mean, everything is nuanced, right?
yeah,
Everything is nuanced. And the biggest thing that I thought about is there's healthy comparison and unhealthy comparison, right? So healthy comparison is, all right, I want to be making a livable wage. I can't live off my money. Let me look around to everybody around me and see those that are making a livable wage, how much are they making a year? Cool. They're making 45,000. I'm making 35. Let me aspire for 45 so I can have a livable wage. You compare yourself to other people to now strive for what is good for self, right? So there is this healthy comparison, which to me is also inspiration. That is healthy comparison. It's inspiration, right? Then the unhealthy comparison is very interesting concept because it's actually a commandment in the Bible that most people don't even know about. And it's this idea of thou shalt not or you should not covet.
yes,
Most people are not aware of the concept of coveting. And coveting is this unhealthy desire for what is not yours.
yes.
That's different than inspiration. I can look at so and so's car and say, man, I desire to have a car like this one day. Or I can look at so and so's car and say, man, I want that car right now, and I deserve that car, and I should be riding that car. And if I had my way, I'd rip that car key from his arms and take this car. Like, there's this healthy, unhealthy balance. And so I think comparison, when it becomes coveting, that's when you become miserable because it's sinful. And what happens is people don't realize sin is not like, don't do something because it makes God mad. Is no, don't do something because it's going to tear apart at your soul. Murdering isn't just bad because you're making God mad and ending someone's life. Murdering is bad because it ruins your soul. So the unhealthy comparison, the coveting, ruins your soul and it ruins your peace. And that's why people end up so miserable when they're doing it.
There's something that you said there about coveting, which reminded me of you reap what you sow, which I've spoken to people about before, which is often misunderstood. It doesn't mean karma in the way that people think it does. It actually means how you invest in yourself is what you will get in return. And back then, the language was for farmers and things like that. So the more you invested in your communities, the more you invested in crops, the more you invested in your livestock, the more, and it literally, it's almost the original self-help quote. The more you invest in yourself, the more you will get a return.
Mm. Yeah.
To me, that's how I've always understood you reap what you sow.
Yeah. No, definitely. Definitely. And I think to me, the difference is also you reap what you sow in the time that is meant to be reaped. What I mean by that is certain seeds grow in different seasons and different timing. If I sow an oak seed, I can't reap. If I sow an oak seed, I can't expect to reap an oak tree in a day.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I do. So I'm smiling to myself. Sorry, I have this blog, and I used to write blogs, and somebody asked me recently, what's my favourite blog? And my favourite blog is one I wrote about growing tomatoes because it taught me to be patient for 4 months, 4 or 5 months, because I had to tend to them, water them, and at the end of it, I got this amazing crop of tomatoes. And I did this for the first time. I'm 47 now, and I must have did this when I was about 40. I was like, do you know what? I'm going to grow tomatoes. I've never done it before. And it's so simple, but it captivated me for an entire sort of end of spring right up to autumn. As these plants, once they started to flower and give me tomatoes, it never stopped. And I wrote a blog on it. And to this day, it's still the favorite thing I ever wrote about. And it's just that reap what you sow concept.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. And to that point, I can't sow oak seeds and see you sowing tomato seeds and get mad because you're reaping your tomato fruits or your tomato vegetables in 4 months while my oak seed has barely grown.
Yeah.
Unhealthy comparison.
Yeah, covet. Yeah, I like. Yeah. So it's funny, isn't it? Because once you start having these conversations about the Bible and the quotes and the commandments, it's how they are all linked. Like you said, it's the nuances of life that make the differences, but the differences are huge once you understand the concepts.
100%, 100%.